by high school students, younger children, who have been exposed not alone. The first question I often get asked is, can I have sex? Which I always ask them to explain. But no, it is shocking, that there's a lack of knowledge, and I think that grown-ups would not put a child in a car and not teach them how to drive, not give them the seatbelt rule and show them the blinker, and yet we send children out into the world without telling them the basic facts of biology and about their lives and about how to negotiate for, in a self-empowered way, what happens to them. And that's shame on grown-ups. I mean, I think that, we as a nation cannot be so ignorant and so uptight, and it's killing people. And I know it because of the questions I get from children. And that's something that needs to be fixed.
So as a journalist, I have to, again, attack hope. This is a long question. I can't read the whole thing, but I'll read parts of it. How can there be all this talk about being in the end phase of AIDS-free generation, even if a vaccine is around the corner? It will only be effective if it gets administered almost universally around the planet. For that to happen, huge issues of cost, pricing, accessibility, cultural resistance will have to be resolved. Are the organizers of AIDS 2012, by surrounding the conference with such an optimistic message, perhaps more concerned about securing future funding in a world where funding is under pressure, rather than attacking the growing complacency surrounding the epidemic? It is much more of a too big of a business. It's called Your answer doesn't have to be as long as the question. Okay, Cornelius is diving in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think it's about funding, and I don't think it's about the business. I do think that there's probably a little bit too much exuberance. We've been here before, and we were here in 1996. Many of those of you who are old enough remember when, after the Vancouver conference and the proteases were introduced, Newsweek's cover was the end of AIDS. So now we've had 2 or 3 years of having the first proof of concept of the vaccine. We have the first proof of concept of a microbicide, which can block HIV, topically using it in the vagina or wherever to block HIV. And now we have, really clear proof beyond mother-to-child transmission that we can use ARVs for prevention for people who are both HIV negative, but also for those who are discordant couples when the person who is HIV positive is on treatment. So all of that together has just really created this excitement that we could be at the end of AIDS. We are not at the end of AIDS. We are at the beginning of the end of AIDS. We won't be at the end of AIDS until we have a vaccine, and quite frankly, for the 34 million people in the world who are HIV positive, we will not be at the end of AIDS until there's a cure. And so, when those things are put on the table, then we can talk about the end of AIDS. But given all that we have been through, all of the suffering, all of the harm, people are excited that they can do something. And that excitement may be a little bit too much, and we'll sober down, and we'll look at all the hard work that we still have ahead of us. But, I think we have to give people a little space right now to be excited. But we also have to be very, very clear that the road ahead of us, not only just to find a vaccine, just to find a cure, just to implement all of these strategies, we can't even implement needle exchanges. It's going to be hard. And it is going to be as hard as the road towards justice. Those of us who've lived as gay people, those of us who've lived as black people, we know that these moments of exuberance, whether it's Brown versus education or a civil rights bill, does not end things. We have a lot of work ahead, and we need to be very clear about that. But we will get there.
15 years ago, if I had told you that we could cure people with hepatitis C, you would have said, no, that can't happen. It's a chronic human viral pathogen. When it infects the human being, it infects for life. Those of you who are close to this know, and in some populations that have certain types of hepatitis C, in the last 5 years, clearance rates now have been as high as 70%. With the new therapy that we call direct acting, or drugs that act directly against the virus therapy that's coming, we're seeing in more difficult to treat populations that have more difficult genotypes, African American populations, people with HIV infection, we're on the verge of very high cure rates. I only say that because, as the question implied, there's a number of people today living with HIV infection in a scientific reality where the ability is that they can live a relatively natural lifetime if they get access to high-quality therapy, but it's lifelong. And what I'm trying to suggest that the hepatitis C scenario tells us, for the first time, chronic human viruses can be converted to a self-limited infection with medical intervention, and it's about to happen at a fairly large level of the population over the next 5 to 10 years. That hepatitis C, which many of us who do AIDS care today know is a real serious problem in our co-infected population, many of which people still die waiting for liver transplants. I think we're going to see enormous change. And so I'm just trying to come back to the idea that I think we shouldn't hold short on the therapeutic advances that would come, that even those of us that need chronic therapy may be able to be transitioned to therapeutically independent states.
This panel, you know, they're raising their hand to speak. I haven't done that since the 3rd grade.
He told us if we wanted to speak, we needed to raise it.
I want somebody on the panel, whatever you're talking about, to address the issue of fighting for the funds and the dollars that are out there. So, speak, I'm not even going to look.
Sorry. Okay. So, you know, the only thing that I would say about the treatment technologies is, you know, kind of related to what I said in the beginning. And I think that treatment technologies are making, you know, great advancements, and the funding for those treatment technologies, you know, is a big fight ahead, I think, for, to make sure that the funding is adequately, distributed. But I also think that, there's a whole other discussion that needs to take place around the social determinants of health for the most affected populations. And I think that until that discussion takes place, it doesn't matter if those funds are being directed towards medical technologies without addressing the fact that, particularly I'm speaking for transgender people, that transgender people continue to have to, exchange their bodies in order to pay for a room for the night so that they can have a place to sleep, or, exchange their bodies to have a meal, or even pay for a doctor's visit because the doctor at the local HIV clinic is not culturally competent in providing care to them. Those medical technologies are not available to these populations that are most at risk, or most affected. And so I think that it's all fine and good, but I still feel like we have to go back to the social determinants that are leading people to being at risk. And until we do that, HIV will not find a cure. We will not find a cure for these populations.
Well, we have to do both.
We have to do both.
We can find a cure. The question will be, will it be equitably distributed?
That's.
But I think that we have to make sure that we don't conflate these issues. So we need strong science, and we also need strong social justice.
That's right.
And those two things don't need to be at war with each other, but they need to